Hello. Um, First, I wanted to say that every time someone says something about their little girl, oh, it's my little girl comes up. But what I wanted to say is kind of share that because I heard that from Glenda and Debbie, and I had that same sense of like, oh, this working with little girl business is like not good for me. And I saw through self and everything. And then I also would always hear Pernille saying, if you've got this stuff going on, work with a therapist, get a therapist. If you need a therapist, get a therapist. And so I did that. And I've been working with someone that is with LU and is a therapist.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, it's been immensely helpful, is what I wanted to kind of share with people. And now it's like I went to the therapist with, I wanted to work on this idea of this issue and this shame. And it had to do with my own raising my own child.
Mm.
And then it all like really quickly turned into just like everything you're working with Glenda and Debbie and what I've seen everybody, right? It was my child, right? Like my little girl, like me as a little girl. I mean, I should say me as a little girl. And then she started popping up everywhere, right? It's like I could almost avoid her. Like anything there she is not being seen. There she is. Her needs not being tended to. And it's like such a visceral, real feeling, like there she really is. Um, and it's been really helpful just to like have like visions of like saying to her, oh, it's okay, just climb on my lap, just sit right here, it's okay, everything's okay. And then when it relaxes, just like, oh, let's go outside for a walk, let's go play, like everything's okay. For some reason, for me, that's always like the thing that's like soothing. It's okay, just sit down right here. So that's been really helpful. And then kind of back to like being a parent. Last week, I think it was on your call, Pernille, you said to someone, you can't know what it's like to be a good parent.
Mm.
Or you can't know. You can't be a good parent. I'm sure you remember this.
Yes. Jahara. Yeah.
It just, yeah.
Oh, are you frozen?
I think you're frozen.
It just hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like, because that was like, I wasn't a good parent,
Mm.
Oh. Like I wasn't a good parent.
Yeah, I think you're freezing up.
Yeah, your audio and video are cutting.
I hear a lot of really, really good things that I want to hear.
I think you're locked up entirely now.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna unpin you, and then if you can restart and come back, please do.
I just want to say that what Janet just talked about, the part about oh, I don't need to look at myself as a child. I don't need to look at that. That's not relevant. It's not relevant right now. When we get to the 7th fetter, that is something that you do, because that's when you really, really dissolve time. When you really look into what an illusion time is, that, time doesn't exist. It's just, a concept we have created to explain seasons and the meat suit decaying. But in our experience, time doesn't exist at all. And the past isn't what we think it is, just like the future isn't what we think it is. And in the 7th fetter, you completely dissolve that concept of time. So starting to already practice now, like what Jana talked about, that just allowing that child to experience what the child is experiencing. Like you started by saying, it's not about the child. It's not about what happened when you were a child and what didn't happen when you were a child. It's not about that at all. it's about that is coming up right now.
Yeah.
That is important right now. Of all the things you could think of, that is what comes up right now. That's relevant.
Yeah, it's no coincidence that it's here at this
It's
moment.
not any coincidence.
No.
And it's not about what happened when you were a child.
No.
It's about a contraction in the body that needs your awareness right now. And that contraction has happened at a different time. That's why we believe that it's about then.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's about the bodily sensation that is here right now, that is just reminding us of something.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually now we're talking about, it's almost like the thought that comes up that, oh, well, this was from when I was 6 years old and such happened. It's like it's a way of pointing back to that sensation, back to what's happening, and yet the way that we interact with it is kind of self-defeating in that way, and we actually go the other direction, and we go into the story of it, and it actually takes us away from it. But if we use that as a reminder into, yeah, there is something happening here that feels, as you said, very, very similar to something I felt many times in the past. Use that as a reminder to come back into the body, as opposed to going into the story of, oh, that happened to me then, and that's why I'm like this, and now I can't do anything about it because that story happened.
Yeah. As always, it's about that label that is completely defeating the purpose.
Absolutely.
that comes up.
Yeah.
Is the label completely defeats the purpose.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Great.
Sorted.
um,
Anybody else?
There's some people that we gave assignments that I would like to hear from, but I don't want to
Jenna
point.
is back if you want to see if her.
Yes. Can you find?
Let me unpin us so that we can see the full gallery, and then I can find her.
Yeah. Oh no.
Let's hear it. Oh.
Hello.
Hello
You
again.
disappeared there.
Oh yeah. Is it better now?
Yeah. It's
If
really
it
good.
starts to go out, just turn off your picture and keep with audio.
Thank
Okay.
you.
That's a good idea. I think what I was going to say was, like, whenever you said that to Jihada about, because I so feel her when she talks about like wanting to be a good parent. It's like that for me, right? Like, you want to be a good parent. Of course you want to be a good parent, but like, I was 17, right, when I had a baby. But when you said that, and you kept telling her, you can't know. And then it was like, I couldn't, it was free. It ended up being freeing, is what I wanted to say. Like, it's like, I couldn't have been a good parent at 17. At 23, I didn't know how to be a good parent. At 30, I didn't know how to be a good parent. I'm 50 something now, and he's grown, and I don't know how to be a good parent. Like, it just was kind of like going through that, right? I guess is what I wanted to say. Like, it was freeing, right? Like, no, I can't know.
Yeah.
I can't know. So I just want to say thank you.
It's so unreasonable when we put it on us to, for example, become a good parent, because what does that mean? I mean, what does that mean? If we really stay humble and truly know that, okay, I'm doing the best that I can right now with the tools that I have right now. And just like when we look back at our lives, the decision we made when we were 20, it was the same thing. We made the decisions at that point with the knowledge that we had, amazingly good decisions. But now at 50, we can see, okay, if I had the knowledge I have now, I would make different decisions. And that is what it's going to be like when you look back at today. When you are 70, you're going to look at it and go like, oh, sweetheart, because then you will have, yeah. So it's just that really 10 Fetter acknowledging that you do not know. Having that, being humble in that way, knowing that you do not know. You do not know.
And there's also, nested in that, what we were just talking about with Debbie, or sort of started talking about, but didn't quite go down that road, is the idea of responsibility in general, and
Mhm.
what it is that feels like you could do something different at any other point. Now with hindsight, as you were saying, you can always look back at what your 17-year-old self and say, oh, well, I could have done this better or that better, but you couldn't have at the time, because you would have if you could have. What you did was the only thing you could have done. All of your past history, all of the influences of the world, all of your brain chemistry at the time, everything that was there only allowed you to do one thing at that point, and that's what you did. Now you can look back from this hindsight and say, oh, well, if the world was different, it could have been like this. Sure, if the world was different, but it wasn't.
Mhm.
Yeah, and
And
that we even don't know.
yeah, exactly.
Even that we do not know. Even if we say the world had been different, I would have done you do not know that.
Don't know.
You
You
do
don't
not know
know.
that.
But we can entertain the fantasies because we don't know, and because it wasn't like that. It's just like making up any sort of fantasy story about what might happen to you if you win $30 billion in the lottery. Maybe, but it's no more real than looking back and saying I could have done something different when I was 23. You couldn't have. So it's looking into and it's one thing to take that on as a belief and just say, okay, well, I couldn't have, I guess I'm absolved, but it doesn't really get to the root of it. What's better is now to go into what feels like in this moment, like the Jana in who's 50 something, if it feels like you could make a different decision in this moment than you do, then we can investigate that. And what is it that actually feels like it can make a decision? What does it feel like to make a choice, to make a decision? And how does it feel that you could do otherwise than you do? And so we have um, fun little inquiry things like, having 2 glasses of tea or coffee in front of you and sitting there knowing that you're going to choose one of the glasses. And then you can sit and you can wait and watch to see what's happening in the body, in the mind, that seems to be uh, steering you from one thing to the other. And then watch when the hand actually reaches out and grabs at one of the glasses. And at what point did it feel like a decision was made? And what did that feel like? Is that something that you can actually choose? And then if the thought just comes up, where is the person who created that thought, who chose that thought, who created that thought? And we can just dissect it like that so that we get a real visceral experience of not having responsibility, of not having the choice, of not having the ability to make a different decision than we do. And we can do that over and over again in different situations. And I recommend for people also just going about their daily life at any point, whether it's a big decision like buying a different car, or whether it's something small like, do I get up and get something to eat now, or just do I walk to the left or to the right? Notice in your direct experience for a moment what feels like you could actually move, what feels like you could choose one thing versus the other, and recognize throughout your life how much you are living completely on autopilot, where there's never even an illusion of being able to make a choice. It's just taken for granted after the fact that you did.
And also that part is super funny, because if you had electrodes on your head, it would be able, somebody sitting and watching the screen would be able to see she has now decided that she wants to reach out and take the water. And that can be seen in the brain before the frontal lobe knows that you're reaching out to grab the water. And the frontal lobe is the ego that is saying, I decided to take the water, and now I am drinking the water that I decided I wanted. But that decision can be seen in the brain way before you have made that decision. So there is absolutely no one anywhere that is deciding anything. It's just, synapses talking with one another.
Yeah. But it really helps to see this, basically convince yourself through your own little experiments, through your own daily experience, that, oh yeah, there is really no person here who is doing any of it. Even having seen through the sense of self, there can still be that feeling of, well, yeah, okay, there's nobody here doing it, but maybe, you know, there's something that still makes a choice. There's something that still could do something differently. Because if you really believed that there was no sense of self, that there not only isn't a self now, there wasn't a self when you were 17. There wasn't a self when you were 23. There wasn't a self when you were 30. There never was one. So it's not that going through LU or anything else gets rid of one. You just recognize that it was never there to begin with. It was purely an illusion. But you're still using that thought is still coming in saying that there was a self back then and she could have done differently than she did, and she's not, you know,
She could have been a better mother,
she
and
could have
she
been.
could have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Every decision she made, she could have decided differently, but that was the point that I was trying to make.
Yeah.
With even with electrodes on your head,
Yeah.
the decision of doing as you did when you were 17, it was made way before the frontal lobe decided. So the frontal lobe now sitting, the ego now sitting and telling the frontal lobe that it could have done differently is so delusional.
And
you
when
know,
you're 17, the frontal lobe isn't even fully developed yet. So there's also that.
that doesn't happen until you're 19. So it's like there was no chance in hell
Yeah.
for any good decisions to happen at any point.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and bad decisions to happen at any point. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's that part, like, that feels real clear to me. I think, and then I think that you guys know or how to address that, whatever. I used it as a way to bypass the feelings of, not addressing what I
Yeah.
felt, right? So
Yeah.
it was just like a real recognition for me to sort of say to people whenever they say it's really hard to sit and everything, or for me too, it's like I've been to silent 7-day retreats and it's still really hard for me to sit. It feels impossible. And that's why I think having a therapist, like, and somebody from this like non-dual side is really helpful to sit with, to get through the whole thing, right? To sit like you guys are doing here, right? Like basically to do that one-on-one where you can really feel through it and get to the bottom of it and not run away from it, and just for someone to be there and just for everybody just wants to be seen, maybe. I don't know what that is. Like, I can't really speak to it, but that's how it felt for me, just for someone to be there. Like, you're not gonna die.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone's there.
I really, really love you bringing it up, and I also want to emphasize, and I completely agree, having somebody, having your back is really important. If it's a guide or it's a therapist or it's in a group or it's your own sense of accountability, being in a group and speaking up or whatever it is, it's just really important to have that support, that feeling of support. Absolutely. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you.